In this video, I'm going to show you how to create and insert or place the foundation stem walls of the Jefferson Beach bungalow. So here's the drawing that we are trying to replicate. If we zoom in here, we have a couple of notations. We have right here the F2 slash CW2, which goes around this main perimeter. And then if we come out here around the garage, we have this F1 slash CW1. If we scroll out on the plan and we go to the upper right-hand corner, we have some basic information for the footings. So the F1 is a 12-inch by 8-inch thick continuous footing. We've got the F2, which is the 16-inch by 8-inch continuous footing. And then if we recall from our notation, we had the slash and we had the CW1 and the CW2. So the F1 stands for footing 1, footing 2, the CW stands for concrete wall 1, concrete wall 2. So the main part of the Jefferson Beach bungalow, we have a footing that's F2 and we have the concrete wall, which was the CW2. That is what we are looking at right here. So we're going to start with the CW2. And for one reason or another, traditionally when drawing plans, the foundation wall would be put in first. And then if you look at the hidden lines on each side, that represents the footing in this T foundation system. And that would be drawn in after the fact. So in terms of us modeling, we're going to model it in that same sequence. We're going to add the CW2 walls in first, and then we'll come in and add the CW1 walls in. And then in a different video, we'll talk about how to place the different footings. Okay, so having that background, let's go back to our Revit. So this is where we left off in the previous video, where we have the grid lines. So at this point, you can see we are on the top of footing. I still have the tab open for top of footing. So when we place the foundation walls, this is where we are going to actually place from. Now, I'm not sure what we'll see quite yet at the moment, but sometimes the view range, however it has been set up in the template we brought in, may or may not actually show us the foundation wall. If that's the case, I will pause and show you how to change the view range to make those things visible. Okay, so let's talk about placing a footing, a foundation wall. The first thing you need to know in Revit, they refer to the different objects that we put in there as family and family types. So to come up with the foundation wall that we want to create, it is a wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're on the architecture tab. And right below that tab, we will see a tool that's called wall. If I click on the down arrow, it will show different types of walls. We're going to simply select the architectural style. Once we have that selected, the different walls that have been loaded into the template will appear. Hopefully your computer is going a little bit faster than mine, but here we go. So in our properties window, we can see that we've defaulted to a basic wall generic 8-inch. If I click on the drop down arrow, I will have the ability to see all of the different wall types that are in the generic template that we've loaded up. So if I'm looking through here, I want to find something that's very similar. So we do want to put in a foundation wall, and it appears right here I have a 12-inch concrete foundation wall. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Now, first off, if I go back to our drawing, and we are going to be building in this place right here. Okay, I had a little technical issue come up here. See if I can make that come back up. Okay, there we go. So if I come back up here, we are going to be looking at the concrete wall concrete wall type 2. This is an 8-inch wall thick, and it measures 2 foot 0 inches from the concrete. That's the height of the concrete stem wall. So we are going to come back here to our properties menu. And what we're going to do is once we're on the foundation 12-inch wall, we're going to go ahead and select edit type. So again, we call this a family type. So when it says edit type, we're going to go in and actually edit that specific family type. So we have a 12-inch foundation wall. What we're going to do is we're going to use this as a template to create our 8-inch wall. So to do that, I'm going to come over here to this button that says duplicate and click. And what will happen is we'll have a dialog box that says name. This is where we're going to name the new concrete wall. Whenever you do the duplicate, it'll always take the original description and numerically it will add a number behind it. That's why you see the 2 right here. I'm going to simply delete that out, and then I'm going to put my cursor right there where it says 12 inches, and I'm going to change that to 8 inches. Okay, so once I've done that, we'll see up here under our family, which is a basic wall system, the family type is now going to show up here as a foundation 8-inch concrete wall, but the parameters still are set at 12 inches. If you look right here under our construction, our width, which is the thickness of the wall, is still 1 foot, or the 12 inches. To modify that, I'm simply going to click on my edit button, and it's going to allow me to come in here to edit the thickness. So right here where it says 1 inch, I'm just going to go ahead and highlight everything and go 0 space 8, so that's 0 foot 8 inches. I can go ahead and hit enter, and you'll see my thickness show up. All right, so that's the only thing that I need to have in my concrete wall. Before I move on, I just want to point out that we do have what we call core boundaries. It won't mean a lot as we put in these walls, but when we get into the framing aspect of this building, when we get into the main level floor, that will become very important. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay. And I'm going to go ahead and say okay one more time. So now up here in our properties window, what you'll notice is we still have, or our wall type has now been changed to an 8-inch wall. Okay, before we start placing the wall, we need to look at a couple of things. So under our constraints, we have to be very careful here. We need to make sure that we define these correctly. Otherwise, as we put them into our drawing or into our model, they will not be correct. So the first thing is the location wall is the wall center line. If I click right there, we can actually change that. And on this foundation wall, I'm going to select core face exterior. I'll come back and give an explanation on that in 1 second. The base constraint, this is where the bottom of the wall is going to be placed. Let me hover over there one more time. And what you'll notice on that little drop-down window where that red line is, that is showing you the level in which it will be set, and then it will protrude in the positive direction on the on the z-axis. Okay, so this is our foundation wall. Our foundation wall sits on the footing, and so we want our base constraint to be the top of footing. I'm going to come down here because this is where a lot of students, based on this template we load, get into some trouble. Our top constraint right now is up to the level of top of footing. Okay, that's a problem right now because our base constraint and our top constraint is the same point. And for some reason, by default, I'm not quite sure why, but I've got 12 feet as a wall height in here, and so my base offset is a negative 12 feet. The software, the application right here is just adjusting for the top and base constraint being at the same level. So anyway, long story short, we need to change that top constraint. And for pretty much everything we do in this series of videos for the Jefferson Beach Bungalow, we want this constraint to be unconnected. The significance of unconnected means that you can define your height to whatever height you want it to be. In our case, we have a wall that is 2 feet tall. And our base constraint, we need to change that back to 0. Don't try to change that to 0 until you have changed your top constraint to unconstrained. Otherwise, you will not work for you. Okay, so now that we've done that, we now have an 8-inch footing that is 12 inches, is 2 feet tall. And the location line of this is on our exterior core face. Okay, the significance of that is when we go now to place our wall, and I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to go to where grid lines A and 1 intersect. The core face will be the outside plane of the wall that I'm drawing. So let me just do a quick example here. If I start to place my wall right here, you will notice that the thickness of the wall goes to the inside of that grid line. Okay, if I were to change this back to wall center line, then what you'll note right here is I'm drawing again, coming off of where grid lines A and 1 intersect, you'll note that that wall is going to the center. Okay, so in our case, if we go back to our drawing here, what we need to realize is the outside face of our foundation wall is along grid line 1 and along grid line A. So that's what the significance is as far as drawing this to the exterior core face, or the core face exterior. The other thing you need to realize is when you go to the core face exterior, you need to place the walls in a clockwise direction. If I were to go counterclockwise, you'll notice that my foundation wall, the thickness of that is actually growing to the outside thickness of the grid lines, which is not what we want. So I'm going to really quickly just start right here at grid line A1, and I'm going to come all the way over here to grid line, that should be C1. I'm going to click. Now I can continue, and the reason I can do that, if you look up here, the chain is connected. So as long as that that chain is check marked, then it will just continue your wall segments uninterrupted until you finish all of the segments. So I'm going to come down here to the next grid line, and then I'm going to come all the way over here to grid line 2A. And then to finish this out, I'm going to come back up here, and I'm just going to go to the center, and I'm going to double click, and that will end that chain action. I'm still in the wall draw mode, but that double clicking will actually exit out of the chain command. And if I want to completely exit out of the placing the wall mode, I will hit escape twice. There are other ways to do that. That is my favorite way to go about that. Okay, before I go further then, as you can see right here, we got top of footing. That's the view that we're on. You can see that we've got these nice foundation walls going around. And the one thing I haven't showed you guys yet is if we come down here, I don't actually have one created yet, so I'm going to come up here to the very top of my screen. And right here, you will see this little three-dimensional shed looking thing. That will allow us to view our drawing or our model in 3 dimensions. So I'm going to double click on this. And once it loads here, you'll see a new tab come up that's called 3D. And as we zoom in there, you will see these 2-foot concrete stem walls that we created. Incidentally, if I come down here, if you guys watch where my mouse is going, this little 3-dimensional box looking thing, if I click on there, I can actually change. Right now I'm in hidden line format. I can go to a consistent color, and when I do that, you're going to actually see somewhat of a rendering here. It won't have any shadows, but as we have different material types, you will see a little bit more color here, and this will actually help you visually to see what you are creating. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the top of footing view. So this is where we left off. We got that main part of the house. Let me bring our plan back up. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to create our CW1 wall. And if you remember, this is a 6-inch wall. So we're going to go ahead and create that wall type using the same method that we created the 6-inch wall type, and then we'll go ahead and we will draw those wall segments in. So to do that, once again, I'm going to come up here under my architecture tab, and I'm going to select my wall type. This, under properties, it will always default to the last wall type or family type that you had inserted. And you can see that we've got our 8-inch wall. We need to create a 6-inch wall. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and hit edit type. And I'm going to duplicate my 8-inch wall. Once again, I'm going to get rid of the 2. I'm going to change my 8 to 6 inches. Say OK. Last thing I need to do to create my 6-inch wall type is to change my width from 8 inches to 6 inches. I do that by clicking on the edit button, and then under thickness, I will change that from 8 inches to 6 inches. All right, I'll go ahead and say OK. Go ahead and say OK once more. As I'm looking over here, everything seems to be good right now. My base constraint is still top of footing. My location line is the core face exterior. I have an unconnected height of 2 feet. So at this point, everything should be exactly how I want it. The only thing is, when I go to draw this, I'm going to start on grid line 2, but I'm not going to go all the way back to grid line C. I'm going to start about halfway, and I'll show you why here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and as I go through, you'll see that my wall is actually not where it needs to be, but that's okay. I'm going to come out here to where grid lines D and 2 connect. I'm going to click here. I'm going to come down, click where grid lines 3D connect. I'm going to come back here to grid lines 3B, and then I'm going to finish this out by going and clicking to the edge of my 8-inch concrete stem wall. I'm going to hit escape twice to exit out of that mode. Okay, so if I go back here to our plan, the only thing I really need to do is I need to fix this wall right here. So this wall was created so the thickness is coming on this side, and if you look at the 8-inch wall that we created, the outside plane of that 8-inch wall is the same plane as the inside plane of the CW1 wall. So the easiest way to make this line up, I'm going to come up here to my tab and select Modify. And on Modify, I'm going to go ahead and select this icon or this tool right here that's the Align tool. So you have the ability to align objects to each other. And the rule of how this happens is you always select the plane or the line that you want to align to. So in our case right here, we want the inside plane of this CW2 wall to be in line with the outside plane of the CW1 wall. I can either select the outside wall here. I could also select the grid line just simply because they both are on that same plane. So I'm going to click right here. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to click again on the line that I want to align to, and you'll see that it pulls that over. Hit escape twice to get out of that mode. The last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to select this wall. And once that's highlighted, you'll see there's a little blue dot in this corner. And you can see this is the drag wall end command. So I'm going to click on my left mouse button while holding that down. I'm going to drag to the right, and I'm going to drag that just until I'm tangent to that other wall. You'll see that those connect. Now you'll see I have this little line right here. That little line is actually the grid line that's coming through. I'm just gonna, for kicks, I'm gonna unlock that, and I'm gonna drag that grid line back to the other side of the wall, so it looks like the top of this foundation wall is continuous. If I go back to my 3D view, that is exactly what you're seeing happening at this location right there. Okay, so that's actually a fairly quick method to put the walls in. We do have actually two other things that we need to do before we finish this video. So if I go back to our plan, we have in our concrete wall 1 type what we call blockouts. We got a blockout where there's going to be a passage door that occurs, and then we've got a blockout over here where our overhead door is going to occur. So essentially, the purpose of this blockout is we're gonna essentially just create a little bulkhead, if you will, that will prevent the concrete when it's poured from going into that area. It'll basically push the top of the concrete wall down, so your concrete slab can go out over that foundation wall, which will allow either foot traffic in your passage door or vehicular traffic through your overhead door. All right, so let me just really quickly show you how to create that. So if you recall from the first video, this is the front of our house. This is the back of our house. This is the right side of our house. And over here is the left side of our house. So we want this passage door block out to be on the left side elevation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to my building elevations, and I'm going to double click on my left side elevation, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So if you recall, our garage, that 24 feet is going from grid line B over to grid line C. So the block out, if you can see I can highlight this right here. I'm going to go ahead and actually select it so it turns blue. That is that wall segment that occurs on the left-hand side. The block out we need to put in here is somewhere in this area. So once you highlight that wall segment, what you're going to do is you're going to come up here to your tools. Anytime you select and highlight a family type, the modify command will automatically come into play. So we're going to come over here and we're going to select this icon that's called Edit Profile. And once you hit Edit Profile, what you will see is that wall will be outlined with kind of a pinkish type line. So that pink line is essentially what we're calling the profile lines of this wall. So to modify this wall, we're going to do this really simply. So we're still in an edit mode, and if you look at this part of your screen, these are some line tools. I'm going to select this line type right here, and I'm just going to come in very quickly, and I'm going to click. I'm going to come down 1 foot 4 inches. I'm going to be really careful and be precise there. And I don't really care how far I'm going over at this point, and I'm going to come back up. Okay, a profile can't have, in this case, like a rectangle inside of a rectangle. What we need to do is actually get rid of this line that goes between those 2 points. So again, using our edit tools, if you can see up here, we have what we call the split element tool. I'm going to click on that tool, and then I'm going to come down here in between those 2 lines we made for that door opening, and I'm going to click. What this tool just did is it just took that continuous line and it created 1 line and separated it into a second line. So that's no longer 1 continuous line, it is 2 lines. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here to my tools, and if you look at this icon, it's called the trim or extend a corner. and I'm going to click on that tool. Okay, what we want is to make this a right angle. Okay, it does matter where you select the line. So if I were to select the line here and then select it over here, you can see that the right angle was made in that direction. That was not the correct direction that I wanted to make that trim occur. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to click here and I'm going to click on, whoops, I did a couple of undos and I lost my split. So let me split that again. Now I'm going to select on that side of the vertical line and then on that side, and you can see I make that nice, crisp, clean corner. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. Okay, so one last thing we need to do, I set the depth here at 1 foot 4 inches, which is what I want it to be, but I have not set the distance from the outside of the foundation wall here and then whatever the door thickness is. So I noticed on this plan that I'm working off of, I do not have a dimension here. And so I'm just going to throw out what dimensions to use. However, when you get to this front block out, the dimensions do exist on that plan. So I'm going to come back up here to my Annotate tab. I'm going to click on that tab and I'm going to go to my Aligned Dimension. And then what I'm going to do is I want to grab the outside. This profile line is actually on the center of the adjoining or perpendicular foundation wall. I want to actually be to the outside of that wall. It's not allowing me to snap there, and that's because up here you can see my place dimension is set to the center of the wall. I'm just going to simply change that to face of core. Now you'll notice I have the ability to snap that dimension to where that grid line is, which is also the outside face of that concrete wall. I'm going to come snap it in at this point. I'm going to snap a dimension right here. And then you've got to move either left or right, and you can click and you can exit out of that string of dimensions. Hit escape twice and it'll get you out of the dimension mode. So what I want to do is I want to actually set this line right here exactly 3 foot 5 inches from the edge of this wall. So I'm going to select the line that I want to move. Take note that when I select that, my dimensions become active up here. So I'm going to select in that dimension box and I'm going to type in 3 foot 5 inches, hit enter, and you'll see that line move. Okay, over here, what I want to do is I want to set the opening here to 3 foot 9 inches. So to make that happen, I need to select the line that I want to move, which is this line right here. So I select it, my dimensions activated, so I can go into that box, and I'm going to change that to 3 foot 9 inches. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say okay. When I first started using Revit, I would go back and delete those dimensions, but it turns out you don't really need to. If you ever go back to the wall profile, you can see what those dimensions are. But once you've got the geometry here, the profile changed, the next step, we are going to simply just come over here and you'll see the green checkbox, and we're going to just click on that. That will accept the changes, and I'm going to go ahead and select outside of there, and you'll see that profile has changed. So if I go back to my 3D view, you'll notice in that view, you can see that I've cut that area out. Okay, so we're going to go back to our top of footing, and we need to create a block out once again for this area right here. So I can go to my front elevation. Another thing I'll show you here really quickly is if I click on here, I can still hit edit profile, but then it's going to ask me what elevation view I want to change that profile from. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select the front and say open, and it will take me there automatically. So there's a couple different ways you can get to that front elevation. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, and what I need to do is I need to figure out where my blockouts are here. Now, if I go back to my plan, that block out is from the edge of the grid line, or from the grid line or the edge of the foundation wall. We're exactly 3 foot 6 inches. We have a 9-foot block out, and then we have another 3 foot 6 inches, which takes us to the outside of the wall, not the grid line in that case, or grid line 2. So once again, I'm going to go ahead to my line tool, and using that line tool, I'm going to create, come back down here to 1 foot 4 inches. I'm going to keep that the same depth. I'm going to come back up here and create the essentially the block out right there. I will come up here, use my split element. I'm going to come to the center there and split that line. Go to my trim tool, trim at those 2 locations to get that right corner. Trim at those 2 locations to get that right corner. Now, to locate this correctly between the 2 grid lines, go back to annotate. I'm going to add 2 dimensions. I'm on face of core, so I can come right out here to the edge of the wall, to the edge of the block out, to the edge of the wall, or to the edge of the block out, and then over here to the edge of the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and put those that string of dimensions in there. And now I'm going to come and I'm going to select this wall right here. According to the plan, that was 3 foot 6 inches. And according to this side over here, that was 3 foot 6 inches. And the total opening per the plan was 9 foot. So it looks like everything adds up there correctly. So I'm going to once again come up here, hit my check mark. That'll put that block out in there. I'm going to come back up here to my 3D view, and you will see those 2 blockouts. So there you have it. That's all it takes to create both the CW1 and the CW2 concrete foundation walls for this project. In the next video, I will show you how to create the continuous footings going around the concrete foundation walls. We have a center interior footing that will support a wood bearing wall, and we also have a couple of isolation footings that will be located in there. Beyond that, there's also some pier footings that support an exterior deck. In the next video, I will take you through and show you how to complete all of those. So thank you for watching, and good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.